What are some of the best whiskeys selling for under 50 US dollars? Well, my patrons had some thoughts on that. Stick around. What's up guys, Jeff coming from the 18, and the idea for today's video is we're talking about super affordable whiskeys. So these are whiskeys that you can get for under or around 50 US dollars in most markets. Speaking personally, I'm in a very cheap market, so I'm lucky everything on today's list is under 50 US dollars for me, but that's not to say that that's going to be the case in all or even most markets. So please, don't get mad at me if some of these end up being a little bit pricier where you are. I am neither aware of nor am I in charge of whiskey prices in Wisconsin. I didn't do that. Point is, these fall under $50 in enough markets that enough people can find them and buy them for that price. So my patrons, through some polling, recommended them here. Some of the bottles on today's lists are going to be channel regulars. You've seen them here before, and others are not. As always, I do have a mystery pour in the glass here. Make sure you stick around to the end of the video. I'll share with you what that is. Your hint for today is that this is a gently peated, sherried, 10-year-old whiskey that's become very popular among enthusiasts despite being only 43%. Yeah, good luck guessing. Let's not waste any more time. Let's jump into our list. In the meantime, if you'll kindly leave a like down below, that'd be greatly appreciated. Okay, we'll kick things off with an absolute classic. This is a very decorated whiskey. It has served the whiskey community with honor for many years now, and by any metric, still a banger. It's Arran 10. If you haven't tried Arran 10 yet, you're definitely missing out. I would describe this stuff as bright, complex, and mass appealing. And I think a lot of that star power is because of that last part, because this really does have broad appeal. Anyone from a beginner to an enthusiast can get behind this stuff. It's fully craft, so it's 46% non-chill filtered natural color, and crucially, this has remained very affordable. And that's despite getting loads of hype over the years, so kudos to the distillery for keeping it both delicious and affordable. Even after all the accolades started pouring in, this still sells for about 35 US dollars in my market, worth every penny of that. Definitely deserves a spot on this list, Arran 10. At number 9, we have a blended whiskey. This is a Japanese whiskey, except it's not really a Japanese whiskey, but it is bottled in Japan. We've got Nikka from the barrel, which has long been an enthusiast favorite. This stuff is both well made and delicious. It's got a healthy ABV of 51.4%, and it remained very reasonably priced, especially when every other Japanese whiskey under the sun just went bonkers price-wise. This remained an affordable option out of Japan and Scotland. As this is a blend, we do have a grain component in here, as well as single malt whiskeys from Yoichi, Miyagikyo, and Ben Nevis. I would describe this as a balanced, accessible all-rounder in the sense that we get malt, we get grain, we get peat, and we get sherry. We got it all in here. The trade-off here being that yes, while this is affordable, it does come in a smaller bottle. It's only 500 milliliters, but I still think it's worth every penny for that price. You're getting the high ABV, and it is a quality whiskey, Nikka from the barrel. Next up, we have one of the best bang for buck whiskeys on the market, in my opinion, and that is Ledaig Rioja. Very cheap, very delicious. This one is a banger, man. I'd actually have it higher up on the list. I always tell people that I actually prefer this one to the Ledaig 10. I think it's better. Not only that, it is cheaper in my market. This sells for less than 30 US dollars, which is insane value. I love the loud, dramatic flavors in this. We get big peat, big sherry. I would describe this as smoky, sweet, and bold. The issue is that it's not available across the board in every market. Even I have a tough time finding it sometimes, but when I do, always worth a pickup. Definitely worth trying if you haven't. Ledaig Rioja. Next up, at number 7, we have Bruichladdich Classic Laddie. A divisive one, but one that I've liked for a very long time, and my patrons seem to agree. This stuff is craft, comes in at 50% ABV, of course non-chill filtered and natural color. As I said, it tends to be a love it or hate it profile. Obviously, I'm a fan. I would describe this, what would I put in my notes? I would describe this as distillate driven, clean, and sharp. And I think it is that sharpness that does turn some people off of this whiskey. It's not going to be for everyone. Obviously, it's not a bother for me. In fact, I like the youthful bite that this gives us. Comes in at what, like 40 US dollars in my market. Definitely worth it. Bruichladdich Classic Laddie. Next up at number 6, we've got another solid whiskey. We've got Ardbeg Wee Beastie. Now this one's been out for a few years now, and one thing that I've always appreciated about this is that aside from Lagavulin 8, there aren't too many other Islay single malts that have had the guts to put out an age-stated whiskey that's under 10 years old. So kudos to them for that. This is a younger, bolder, and yes, less refined Ardbeg expression, which is to be expected. It is a 5-year-old, but I think for the $45 price tag that it goes for in my market, it's worth it. I describe this whiskey as smoky, bold, and youthful, and of course, being a young, heavily peated whiskey, we're not focusing on things like subtlety or nuance here. We're focusing on character, and Ardbeg has a solid distillate, a fantastic character, and if you want a bolder, younger expression, this is absolutely worth checking out. Ardbeg 5 Wee Beastie. At number 5, my patrons chose Clynelish 14, which in my market comes in at just under $50. This one has been a fan favorite for a while because it is affordable. It comes in at 46%, which is rare for a Diageo product, and it gives us a very classic Highland character. Traditionally, this has been described as a waxy whiskey, although admittedly that is less of the case nowadays. The last time that I talked about this one on the channel, I described it as waxy, and then a bunch of people said, no it isn't. Idiot. So fine, we won't use waxy. Let's describe this as honey, malt, and citrus. It is on the brighter side of things, which I think adds to its appeal. It is still a solid whiskey, not as good as it once was, but still worth a pickup. Clynelish 14. At number 4, we've got another classic. This one is an old favorite on the channel, and that is Glencadam 10. This is one I've loved for years. Admittedly, it's been a while. It's probably a couple years since I last had a bottle, but in my opinion, still a budget banger. This stuff is fully crafted, so 46% non-chill filtered natural color. I would describe it as bright, clean, and distillate driven. So it's a gentle whiskey. It's not bold, it's not loud. If you're looking for dramatic flavors like peat or sherry, this is not for you. But as long as you're okay with something with a little bit more delicacy, this one has a character that absolutely sings, and for $35 in my market, absolutely worth it. Okay, we made it to the top 3. Coming in at number 3, we have Compass Box Orchard House. This one was my whiskey of the year last year in 2025. It's a phenomenal whiskey, and it's a nice follow-up to the Glencadam, because if you like Glencadam 10, you'll like this. This stuff goes for $30 in my market and worth every penny. In fact, this is actually my favorite from the Compass Box core range, and it's also the cheapest from the Compass Box core range. And it's something that I always describe as a very summery whiskey. I would describe this stuff as bright, clean, and fruity. It's got a very tropical, vibrant character. We even have a tiny touch of peat in there. It comes together beautifully. It's the only blended malt on this list, and it is absolutely worth checking out. Compass Box Orchard House. All right, number 2 is another fan favorite, and that's Bunnahabhain 12. This is not something that gets talked about too often nowadays. It's less of a conversation online and stuff like that, but clearly it still has its fans, including my patrons. This stuff goes for just $30 in my market. Keep in mind, my market is especially cheap. I would describe this whiskey as sherried, rich, and approachable. What's nice is that this is fully craft as well, so non-chill filtered natural color comes in at 46.3%. Now, I'll admit I did prefer the older bottling before they switched the label over, but that's not to say that the new bottle isn't worth it, because it's still affordable and it still offers great value. So it is still worth picking up, even if it's not quite as popular as it used to be. Bunnahabhain 12. All right, the top whiskey is going to be very predictable. This one is Craigellachie 13, which is probably the number 1 most talked about whiskey ever on this channel, but I mean, there's a reason for that. It was my first whiskey of the year, and it is one of my all-time favorite affordable whiskeys. This stuff is 46% non-chill filtered natural color. We have both bourbon and sherry casks in the mix. One thing to know about this stuff is that I would not describe it as a beginner whiskey. So if you're just getting started, this might not be the best bottle for you to pick up now. Still worth trying, definitely. I would describe this as rugged, meaty, and characterful. Now, if you are up for a bit of a challenge, or if you've got a little bit of experience under your belt, this is absolutely worth it. It is one of the most rewarding, as far as I'm concerned, as far as my patrons are concerned, one of the most rewarding bottles of whiskey for less than $50. It goes for about $45 in my market. And it's the top recommendation for today, Craigellachie 13. All right, guys, that was the list. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, there are quite a few familiar faces, bottles on this list that you have seen pop up before on the channel, but there were a couple wild cards that I didn't expect to see here. Things like Nikka from the barrel. Did not see that one coming, not that it doesn't belong here. But yeah, that's part of the fun of letting my supporters in on the action. Now, of course, this is the part where I reach out to you. So which of these bottles from this list is your favorite? Which of these bottles are going for less than $50 in your market? What do you think was missing from this list? Let me know all of that down below. Finally, if you stuck around to find out what the mystery pour is, your hint from earlier is that this is a 10-year-old Speyside whiskey. It is gently peated, it is sherried, and it is an enthusiast favorite. What I'm drinking is Benromic 10. This is a banger for the price. It goes for about $30 in my market, which is very much worth it. It's got quite a following among enthusiasts, despite being only 43%. So it is on the lighter side, but as far as I'm concerned, it's still excellent. This one actually came in at number 11 on the list, so just missed out on the top 10. Anyway, that brings us to the end of today's video, guys. Thank you again for watching. If you want to support the channel, the whole thing is a one-man effort. So from scripting to shooting to editing, it's all me. If you want to show a bit of support, I will put Patreon and PayPal down below. Any little bit helps. I've got my patrons over here. As always, they're extremely good-looking people. So feel free to join them. And that'll be it for today. Bye, guys.